Alright, so now we're going to talk about the connective tissues. The first one is reticular connective tissue. What we're looking at here is completely different from what we were looking at with the epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissues are compacted cells, so the tissue is made up of cell to cells touching each other. So it's just an arrangement of cells, like a sheet of non-stop cells. With reticular connective tissue, you have cells, but the cells are spraying out an external matrix. And here you can see the reticular fibers. And this external matrix makes up a majority of the space of the tissue. So you have these cells, and the cell type is a fibroblast. And those fibroblasts are going to spray out matrix. So for the connective tissue propers, and we call it connective tissue proper because it actually has the word connective tissue in the name, the major cell type is a fibroblast. So we have dense regular connective tissue, dense irregular connective tissue, reticular connective tissue, and loose areolar connective tissue. So for those four, you can write fibroblast for the major cell type. So the location of reticular connective tissue is it makes up the insides of many of your solid organs. So organs that are solid all the way through, it's going to make up that internal component of the inside of solid organs. The function, flexible support. Now here we have dense, regular connective tissue. It looks almost like sheets, and these sheets are kind of sheets of collagen here. So what we have is a fibroblast here and here, here, and the fibroblast lays out perfect arrangements of these sheets of collagen. Dense, regular connective tissue is located in tendons and ligaments. A tendon is going to connect muscle to bone, while a ligament is going to connect bone to bone. And the function for this one is connection and support. Dense irregular connective tissue. Here we have fibroblasts, and these fibroblasts are spraying out collagen in an irregular way. It looks like swirls of collagen. So for features for these features, you can write down however you're going to remember what it looks like. So if we go back to reticular connective tissue, for features you can write like dark black matrix. For features for dense regular connective tissue, you can write down sheets of collagen. For features for dense irregular connective tissue, you can write down swirls of collagen. It really doesn't matter as long as you are able to identify what it looks like on an exam. The location for dense irregular connective tissue is going to be in the dermis of the skin, it helps make up scar tissue, and it forms fascia. Fascia is like a generalized connective tissue that surrounds major organs and cells in the body. So for this one, its function is holds tissues together and supports internal glands. Loose areolar connective tissue. So loose areolar connective tissue is just a generalized connective tissue. So you can see all three major fiber types in here. We have collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and elastic fibers. This is located pretty much all over the body. So it's located underneath the skin, around many of your organs. It helps hold all of your body parts together. So this is has a lot of diverse locations in the body. And the function, like I said, it's just a generalized connective tissue. Here we have adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is fat tissue. The major cell type is an adipocyte. And when we look at one of these cells, here is the cell, and then here's the nucleus to that cell. It's kind of tucked away in the corner. And then the rest of the cell is made up of this huge storage area for fat. So that's a huge vacuole that contains all fat. And that's the major function of this adipocyte, is energy storage. Now, why do we call fat energy storage? Because that's what it is. Fats can be broken down in order to directly be used for energy production or converted to sugars through gluconeogenesis in order to make energy that way. So energy storage is really what fat is. Typically, you're born with all the fat cells that you're going to have, and as you gain and lose weight, these fat cells are going to get bigger and smaller. And then people that go and get liposuction, we actually have a stem cell in our bone marrow known as a mesenchymal stem cell that can differentiate into adipocytes. So immediately after that fat tissue has been removed through liposuction or surgery or whatever, you've got cells right there that are ready to replace them and grow. So definitely diet and exercise is a better way to lose weight than going to do some crazy surgical procedure. But anyways, so we have this adipocyte. Adipocytes are filled up with fat, and you can see the cell has this tiny nucleus tucked in the corner, and then a majority of the inside is going to be fat. Where is this located? Anywhere that you have fat. And it's going to surround and protect some of your major organs, and it's found in the subcutaneous layer of the skin. So now we have hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, major cell type is a chondrocyte. What we see here is this chondrocyte trapped in a cavity. Now the chondrocyte has sprayed out this extracellular matrix here. And it sprays it out and then gets trapped in the center of this tissue. Here are the boundaries of the tissue, and here are where you're going to have nutrients that need to supply all of the cells in this tissue. So in order for this chondrocyte to get fed, the nutrients actually have to be able to diffuse through this extracellular matrix to get to that cell. This is why cartilage has to be somewhat thin in structure so that you can get nutrients to it. And it's also why cartilage takes longer to heal than bone does. Bone has its own rich blood supply. Cartilage is dependent on getting nutrients from diffusion of nutrients through the matrix. So it takes a lot longer to nourish those cells and to regenerate cartilage tissue. Hyaline cartilage is located in the trachea, in the joint surfaces of the bones. So anytime you have a bone coming next to a bone, it's usually hyaline cartilage that connects those bones and forms that joint cartilage, which provides a smooth surface for the bones to glide on. And then part of the nose is made up of hyaline cartilage as well. For the function is it provides a smooth surface for bones to glide on. Here we have elastic cartilage. Elastic cartilage looks kind of like hyaline cartilage, except if you look at one of these cavities, the chondrocyte is more in the center of the cavity. And then you can see in the background, there's all these elastic fibers that are sprayed around in the background. Elastic cartilage is located in the external ear and also in that eustachian tube that helps alleviate pressure from the middle ear. Elastic cartilage provides flexible support. So for the function of this one, flexible support. And here's fibrocartilage. So fibrocartilage has these very large cavities, and then the chondrocyte is pretty large and takes up a big chunk of what's inside of that cartilage. Fibrocartilage is located in the discs that exist between the vertebrae and in the pubic symphysis. So where your two pubic bones come together in the front, you have this pubic symphysis. So the function of this is it cushions and supports the bones. And for features, you can just write that the cavities are quite large. Here we have osseous or bone tissue. On an exam, you should refer to it as osseous tissue. Now what we're looking at here, each one of these dark black circles is the major cell type. And the major cell type is the osteocyte. Now going back to the cartilage tissues, I said that the major cell type of hyaline cartilage is a chondrocyte. Well, so is an elastic cartilage. The major cell type is a chondrocyte. And for fibrocartilage, the major cell type is also a chondrocyte. But when we get to osseous tissue, the major cell type is an osteocyte. And this time, when this osteocyte gets trapped inside of the matrix that it's sprayed around itself, it has these little tiny channels known as canaliculi that bring nutrients from this central canal. This is not where you have bone marrow. This is where you would have blood vessels and a nerve supply. So nutrients from here travel through these little tunnels, and you can actually see the tunnels. They're like these black squiggly lines to provide nutrients to all of these osteocytes that are trapped inside of the bone tissue. So they have a direct line to nutrients and waste exchange. We're going to learn more about the structure of the osteon, what every single one of these little parts is in the osteon, but we're going to keep it pretty basic for osseous tissue. So for features, to me, it kind of looks like rings on a tree. So if you look at here, you can kind of see like ring-like structures, like growth rings on a tree. For location, it's located in your bones. And function, mineral storage. So this stores calcium and phosphorus for us. And structural support, so it supports the body. This is blood. So what you see here, this is a white blood cell known as a leukocyte. And then this is a red blood cell known as an erythrocyte. So if you're asked about the major cell type of blood tissue, we have two, the erythrocytes and the leukocytes. Erythrocytes are going to be pale discs, and leukocytes are going to be usually larger and purple, and you see nuclei inside of leukocytes. So erythrocytes are the red blood cells. Red blood cells' sole purpose is to transport oxygen. So in order to make our oxygen transport more efficient, we actually get rid of the nucleus before these things leave the bone marrow. And then as they're developing, they don't have a nucleus. They fill up with hemoglobin, and their job is to transport oxygen. So these are one of the only cells in the body that do not have nuclei. These white blood cells do have nuclei, and they're going to serve an immune function. Later on in the semester, we're going to learn what the specific name of this cell is. If you're curious now, this is a neutrophil. You can tell because it's got this multi-lobed nucleus here, and it's pretty large. So that specific type is a neutrophil, but you can just call it leukocytes for now. So, function is to transport nutrients and wastes. Location is inside of your cardiovascular system. And for features, you can just write like pale discs and occasional purple circles or purple cells.